Hello, how you doing? Uh, I want to get into the word, get into this subject the subject matter that I was talking about last week, the subject matter of domestic abuse. First of all, I want to apologize about the camera angle. I do apologize about that. I'm not trying to look down on anybody. It's just that I have a kind of a bad camera angle today. So I do want to apologize about that, but that will be fixed. This subject, which is domestic abuse, what I talked about last week. I want to get a little bit deeper in the subject matter. And what I was talking about last week was just kind of defining what domestic abuse is all about, really telling, letting you know about domestic abuse is not just a woman being abused. Men go through it too. We as men don't talk about it much because it's a form of what the world, quote unquote, call as weakness. But it does need to be talked about because it is a problem in today's time, and you have those conversations. So this is called Ministry Conversations. So my name is Lamar Johnson, and I am your host, and you're the teacher for the day. And I want to get into what James 3:9 says. And it talks about the mouth. And we have to watch what we say to people, about people. Just be kind of mindful. Some people take things the wrong way. Some people are very sensitive, especially when it comes to man and woman, well, husband and wife. Is what I this is this is pretty much about marriage. Husband and wife. Uh, James 3:9 says, "With it we bless our God and Father, and with it we curse men who have been made similitude of God." So we bless and curse with our mouths. And you have to be very mindful of how you say things to someone, even if you're upset. If someone just done you wrong, yeah, you're gonna lash out. That's natural. But at the same time, if we're just the type of people that just want to lash out at people for just no apparent reason, just because we may not like what they have on, or we just don't like their character, there's just something about them that we just don't like. Uh, that's not of God. So we have to watch our mouths because what we say, that actually reverts back to us. You reap what you sow. So that means good or bad. So you do have to watch the things that you say. And even especially in marriage, we have to watch what we, you know, say to each other. You have to watch what you say to each other in marriage. Uh, there are times where you're going to have some like intense conversations or serious conversations, but respect one another. Respect, where I respect what you say, and and vice versa. Because everything that comes out of the mouth, there's not going to be agreements all the time. There will be some disagreements. So, but just watch the things that you say. Excuse me. Just watch the things that you say to each other. Um, God, he loves marriage. He does say in his word in Malachi, for the Lord God of Israel says that he hates divorce, for it covers one's garment with violence, says the Lord of hosts. Therefore, take heed to your spirit that you do not deal treacherously. So basically, God is saying, don't deal with each other in a treacherous way, in a mean spirited way, in a way where I, that person has to hurt the other person in order to get their attention, for them to understand what they're saying. If it gets to that point where a person has to hurt another person uh, in marriage, you got to walk away. And that's the best thing to do because why would you want to hurt the person that you say you love? If you say you love that person, why would you want to hurt that person? So be careful, be mindful of what you say and how you say it. Say it with love, you know, truly say it with love. There's sometimes some things are hard to say, but when you say it in a certain manner and you say it in love, a lot of people will take it a better way than when you say it on a harsh way. Now, you might say in your mind, well, some people need to be talked to in a certain type of way. I get what some people think and what they say, but this is marriage is what I'm talking about right now. Marriage is the thing that I am speaking on uh, with the relationship of marriage. You have to, be you have to understand each other. You have to get to that point to say, okay, I get what she's saying. I may not like what she's saying. I may not even agree with what she's saying, but I get it. And you get to a point to say, okay, I'm going to pray about it, and that's the best way to deal with a disagreement is to pray about it. You know, uh, I, I can honestly say that it's been a long time since I've been married. And I can honestly say the mistakes that I made in the marriage that I had, I was married for a little over 10 years, almost 11 years. And there were some times that I didn't listen. I didn't adhere to actually what she, was saying to me. And I don't hold, grudges or anything like that. I never, I, I couldn't do that. I couldn't hold a grudge. So there were things that I had to pray about, on my own, to get clarity from God and things that I had, put into the marriage. It wasn't, and you can't, I don't say that it was all about her, and I can't say that. There were some things that was detrimental, but I had to look at it on my end, um, that whatever the reason why, the marriage ended, uh, I want to know my part. And that's how you have to look at marriage too. When it comes to disagreements, what am I not hearing? What am I not listening to? Whatever she's saying, if I'm not getting it, what is the reason why I'm not getting it? So that's how you have to look at it. In that point of view, just have fun with each other. Make jokes sometimes. There's nothing wrong with that. That's I have to learn. I had to learn to laugh a lot. When I went through a lot of tough times, I had to learn to laugh because laughing is healing. Laughing is healing, and that's how I had to learn to heal. Is I had to laugh a lot. And yeah, everything is not funny, but at the same time, some things are funny, especially when you look back on things that you got so upset about, which that particular thing wasn't nothing. You just got up in an uproar over something that was uh, not even worth the argument. So I'm touching on domestic abuse because we have to learn that subjects like this have to be talked about not only in the households but in arenas like church, like politics, just not just in because in certain types of arenas because a lot of people who you think are not going through it, they are. And you would think, okay, well, that person has a successful career. He can't be going through that, or she can't be going through that. They are successful. That that doesn't mean anything. You have to realize that it does happen, and you have to be mindful of that. That it does, and you have to pray about it, and how to talk to people about it if they are having situations, in their household, or in their family, with domestic abuse. I can tell you a story, and I'm just, I'm just having a conversation with you. That's all I'm doing. This is just a conversation, and that's all I really want to do right now. Just have a conversation with you. But I can tell you a story where I had started about, I want to say about 7 years ago, 6 years. It was right before COVID. It was a domestic abuse nonprofit organization. It was called Men and Women Against Domestic Abuse. And I had met this young lady through a friend of mine from work. It was actually his sister. And he was telling me about, how she had been through domestic abuse, and the person that was abusing her, he was, in prison, but he was about to get out. And he gave her, my number and everything. She wanted to see how she can start her own nonprofit organization. She wanted to start doing some speaking. And so I talked to her for a little bit and helped her get her nonprofit up, start doing Zoom meetings. And during that time, especially during COVID, you couldn't do any like public, speaking. So I helped her, do the Zoom meetings and stuff like that. And then, God said, I think you might have to back off a little bit, because she had been telling me that the guy had been calling her, threatening her, and she was getting these threats. So regardless of, you know, the regardless of the what I want to say, the threats that you get, you have to understand domestic abuse is a serious thing that people go through. The person that is the abuser, you know, has to do the healing for themselves too. It was good that she wasn't with the guy anymore, but I know that, God had told me to kind of back off a little bit. I didn't know how serious the situation was. Her brother, which is a friend of mine, he, was helping her along, trying to get her to understand, he has no rights to come near you. I didn't know her that way. I don't know, and that's why I had to kind of like back off a little bit, but I still kind of helped her from afar. So I had to use wisdom, and I'm telling you this, I'm telling you this in this way. There's some things that when they become violent, God doesn't. God does not. He doesn't like that. He hates violence, and he doesn't want you to stay in a violent situation. So if there's a safe place for you to go when it does, or if it does become violent, go. I'm not telling you to go get a divorce. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm not a, divorce attorney. I'm not none of that. But what I am telling you is, and I believe it with all my heart, walk by faith and not by sight. When it does become violent, and if it does become violent, find a safe haven. Find somewhere to go. Let God lead you and guide you, in that direction. Because you got to get out of harm. You got to get out of harm's way. You do, and that's the thing that's the reason why I was, telling you that story. I know there are people that they have financial issues, and maybe their wife or husband or makes the bulk of the money in the the household. And I understand that, but that's where you have to let God lead you in that direction, because that's just the best way to go. Let Him lead you and guide you. Um, that's what Proverbs said. Trust Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding. With all your ways, acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. So let Him direct you in those times, in those situations, in those uh, real issues like that when it does become violent. I do want to talk about forgiveness, and I want to get off of I want to talk about forgiveness. I really do. Forgiveness sometimes when it comes to abuse, it is it's hard because that person has violated you, and it might have been, and that's why I say, when I put this on YouTube, I don't put it for children. They might have violated you, mentally, physically, and I have to say this, sexually, and it may have gotten to that point, and that is a hard thing to deal with. Uh, you have to find a way, which is a way. The one of the best ways is to get help, is to get therapy to deal with that. There are some professionals out here that know what they're doing, and know what they're talking about, that can help you with that, with those issues. Don't shy away from it. I know fear is the biggest thing that's in front of you. You don't know what the person is going to do, if they're going to come after you or something like that. And that's the best thing to do, is to get help, get therapy. So it won't, and I don't want to use the word, it won't harm you mentally, because it has harmed a lot of people mentally. Abuse, domestic abuse has harmed a lot of people mentally. It has put people in mental institutions. But forgiveness, that's the thing that God sees when you know how, when you understand, and when you can forgive. Everybody doesn't have the same level of forgiveness. When you do forgive, that doesn't mean that you have to go back into that same relationship with that same person when you do forgive them. Because forgiveness, that's not what forgiveness is about. Forgiveness is, for you. And that's to not hold a grudge, because that can harm your future. You don't want to harm your future in any way. So you want to forgive those people who have harmed you in the wrong, and harmed you and have done you wrong, physically and mentally, who might have called you bad names and didn't believe in what you were doing. And don't hold grudges. That is a big, big thing to forgive. Please, when I say that, forgive. Forgiveness will take you to what is called, and what I believe is peace. Peace that passes all understanding. And when I say that, I understand that, and I understand that with experience, because I had to forgive a lot of people in my life. I had to. Some of it was hard, but I had to forgive. And I had to learn that everything doesn't evolve around me. It doesn't. You know, you have to learn to say, okay, God, I give this to you. That person, you know, I know they're not the perfect being, but I give it to you and I forgive them. And if you have their information, call them. There's nothing wrong with that. Call them, forgive them, and then let God know it's time to move on. Because when you harbor all that resentment and that bitterness from a past relationship, past marriage, past whoever, friendship, it doesn't do anything for you to harbor that. All it does is brings more, you know, bitterness, brings more uh, bad emotions. It doesn't give you clarity about anything, because you're harboring all that, bad, and what they call today toxic, stuff in your system. So let God have his way in your life. Put him first. Don't, you know, try not to, and do your best not to argue with the fact of, why I got to do this. You're going to ask questions. Sometimes when you do certain things and God tells you to do it, it's not going to happen like you want it to happen, but it will happen. Forgiveness does take time. It does. you know, it just because you say I forgive you, that person may not forgive you right then. It might take time for that person to actually be like, okay, I accept your apology. But as long as it came from you and came from your heart, from what that's what matters. Let God deal with the other side. As long as you said and you either apologize or you forgave, as long as you did it, let God handle the other side. And that meaning you can't control how somebody else feels. You can't. You only can control how you feel and what you do. So, and I say that, with love when I say that, because you can't control what people do. You can only do the things that you need to do and pray about the other. So I didn't even, I didn't even know that I was going to actually go in that direction with this today, because I had something else I was going to say. But I do want to thank you for listening to this episode of domestic abuse. The next video and episode, I'm going to get into fitness and wellness and health. May is Mental Health Month. That is another reason why this topic has come up. But I will, in the next episode will be about fitness and wellness. We do need to get our bodies, keep our bodies in shape, regardless of what age we are. If you still living, you can sit on your bed and pick your leg up, rock your leg. You never get too old to do any kind of exercise. You never do. So I want to thank you for listening to this video. Let God be God in your life. Whatever is for you is for you. And so I want to let you know that this has been a great video, and I will be putting this out probably in the next few days or something like that. I will start doing live videos, and also this will probably turn into a podcast, so where people can ask questions and stuff like that. But with that, my name is Lamar Johnson, and this is Ministry Conversations. And I'll talk to everybody soon. Have a blessed day. God bless. See you later.